This is Central Asia, and the place I'm pointing at is the Fergana Valley. 17 million people live here, 1 in 5 people in the whole region in one valley. But the real shock is not the population, it is the borders, because the borders here look like someone drew them during an earthquake. They twist, they knot, they cut through towns, they create pockets of land trapped inside other countries, and in some places the border is so absurd, it can turn a normal drive to the next village into an international incident. Here is the problem. The Fergana Valley is split between 3 countries today, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Tajikistan, and their borders do not run clean. They zigzag through the valley like broken glass. You can see narrow corridors, tiny peninsulas, and strange arms of territory reaching into each other. Sometimes a country barely connects to itself with a strip so thin, it feels like a mistake that became permanent. But the craziest part is the exclaves. Pieces of one country completely surrounded by another. In this valley there used to be no fewer than 8 of them. Most of them sit inside Kyrgyzstan, especially in the Batken region, one of the most complicated border zones on Earth. Some exclaves are tiny, so small they barely matter. A road, a creek, a single farm. But others are huge and extremely tense. The most famous example is Vorok, a Tajik exclave surrounded by Kyrgyzstan, home to around 45,000 people. And for decades these residents lived trapped with limited access, limited resources, and constant pressure. Tajikistan has long argued that Vorok should not be an isolated island of people, and has pushed for a land corridor to connect it to the mainland. Kyrgyzstan refused, and that disagreement helped ignite multiple clashes. Uzbekistan has its own exclaves too, including one that is especially strange. The Ar-Sok-Ain district. It is an Uzbek exclave surrounded by Kyrgyzstan, home to around 80,000 people, and most of them are ethnic Tajiks. So think about that. An Uzbek territory inside Kyrgyzstan filled mostly with Tajiks. Now add one more layer. Ethnic borders do not match political borders here. Many Tajiks live in Uzbekistan. Many Uzbeks live in Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan. So the map does not just look messy, it creates friction in real life. Over roads, over farms, over checkpoints, and most importantly, over water. So how did this border chaos happen? A lot of people assume one simple answer: Stalin drew it like this on purpose, to divide and rule. That idea might sound believable, but the truth is more complicated. Before the Soviet era, the valley was not divided by modern national identity. People were multilingual, families were mixed, communities were intermingled. Identity was shaped more by lifestyle, nomadic, or settled by religion, by clan, not by clean modern nationality. Then the Russians conquered the region in the 1800s, and later the Bolsheviks inherited it after 1917, but Central Asia was unstable. There were revolts, including the Basmachi movement, a brutal conflict that the Soviets fought hard to crush. After the Soviets secured control, they wanted to rebuild the old empire into a union of nations, each nation with its own republic. So in 1924, they began drawing internal borders for new Soviet republics based on ethnicity. The problem is that ethnicity here was not clean on the ground, so the Soviets tried to measure it with censuses door to door, often on horseback, while large parts of the population were still nomadic, and many residents did not even think in the Soviet ethnic categories. Some spoke multiple languages, some had mixed ancestry, some families picked different nationalities inside the same household, so even if the Soviets wanted perfect borders, they could not create them, and they had more priorities than ethnicity. They wanted each republic to be economically viable, they wanted cities, rail links, water access, and at least 1 million people per unit, so borders were drawn for practicality, not purity. And remember, these borders were never meant to be international borders. They were internal lines inside one giant country. The USSR, for decades, they barely mattered. People crossed freely, trade flowed, no one treated them like hard frontiers. Then 1991 happened, the Soviet Union collapsed, and overnight, internal lines became real borders, with checkpoints, passports, and national armies. Suddenly the Fergana Valley became one connected valley, split by 3 new states, with unresolved maps, unclear demarcations, and enclaves stranded inside rivals. At first access remained possible, but tensions grew fast. In 1999, militants attacked in Uzbekistan, then used the border chaos to operate in the region. Uzbekistan responded by sealing borders, building fences, setting checkpoints, and even laying landmines that turned daily life into a nightmare. Villages were cut off, fields were split, roads became political weapons. And the clashes did not stop there. In 2010, ethnic violence erupted in southern Kyrgyzstan. Hundreds died, homes burned, and the old Soviet decisions suddenly felt explosive. The worst escalation came later, between Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan, especially near Voruk, where water and access collide. In 2021, a dispute near a water facility spiraled into full-fighting artillery drones, mortars, helicopters, dozens killed, borders sealed shut. In 2022, it happened again, even deadlier. Nearly 150 soldiers killed, over 100,000 civilians displaced on the Kyrgyz side. For years, people in enclaves were trapped, unable to visit family, unable to move freely, because a border drawn a century earlier had become a cage. But here is the twist. The story does not end with endless war. In early 2025, Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan announced a breakthrough. Borders reopening, disputes resolved, land swaps agreed, and even a neutral corridor plan to allow access to Voruk without forcing full territorial surrender. Then, Uzbekistan joined the process, and all three declared major progress toward fully defining borders, for the first time since the USSR collapsed. So yes, the borders still look like border Gore. They still look insane on a map. But the region is proving something important. Messy borders do not automatically guarantee endless war. If governments choose negotiation, if they solve access, if they manage water, if they protect civilians. The Fergana Valley is still one of the strangest border regions on Earth, but it might also become one of the best examples of modern conflict resolution. And that is the real lesson of this valley. A map can be ugly, but the future does not have to be.